Hallelujah, the preseason is over. Let's recap Jets versus Giants. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm WatchUK99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. The New York Jets wrap up the preseason, finishing it at 2-2 as they defeat the New York Giants in MetLife Stadium by a final score of 32-24. As of now, it doesn't appear there are any major injuries on the Jets side. Mecole Hardman may have banged his finger up on a long pass that he dove trying to catch. Seemed like he had the catch. Ball seemed to pop out. He may have banged up his finger, so we'll wait to hear about that. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like there were any serious injuries for the Jets, so that in of itself is a major win. A couple of things I want to point out. First, with the Jets offense, major concern for me was the running game here. This was the Jets starting offensive line for the first two series going against the Giants backups, okay? Leonard Williams wasn't on that field. Dexter Lawrence wasn't on that field. And the Jets in the first half managed 5 carries for 3 yards on the ground. Michael Carter, 4 carries for 1 yard for the game. That just ain't going to do the trick. All right. And for the game, the Jets had 41 yards rushing. Not very encouraging. Bamknight was getting most of the work at the end of the game before Travis Dye really took over. I don't think that bodes very well for Bam's chances. The one thing I think he does better than any other running back on the Jets is pass blocking. I saw him pick up a blitz a time or two. You saw the Giants blitz a lot, especially against Aaron Rodgers. Wink Martindale was coming with the pressure even in the preseason, and that is very, very interesting that the Giants chose to play so aggressively on defense. But Rodgers, amazing touchdown to Garrett Wilson. Wilson was covered very, very well, but we're starting to see it as Jets fans, the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, how he's able to throw a football inside those tight windows. Not something we're very used to seeing from Jets quarterbacks. But Rodgers goes 5 for 8 for 47 yards, 1 touchdown, a 118 quarterback rating if you're worried about such things. I thought Zach Wilson was pretty efficient. I thought he took a few more chances in this game. For the most part, I felt his throws were online, knew when to throw the ball away, when to run, when to go out of bounds, which we know the coaches and Aaron Rodgers have talked to him about in previous games. But for the preseason, Zach completes 37 of 56 passes, so that's about 66%. 365 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions and no fumbles. Very happy to see that. Zach looking, I felt quite competent to the point where, not that you want him as a backup quarterback, but you don't feel like it's exactly the end of the world if he has to come in and try to play one game for you. Hopefully it never comes to that. I do want to congratulate Mekhibecton. Robert Saleh, head coach a few moments ago, named him the starting right tackle going forward. I think it's well earned. Joetippmann came in on the second unit, so I was very happy to see Tippmann back on the field. He had a knee injury, and the thoughts were he might miss a few weeks, but should be back for opening game. Well, he came back inside of 1 week. He was ready tonight. He was the second team center. Show great ability to block, the ability to get out in space, the ability to get to the next level and block the second level of the defense. But there is one thing holding him back right now, and that is his snapping. The shotgun snaps were offline. The one throw Zach Wilson had downfield that was like offline a little bit, I think it was intended, I want to say for E.J. Jenkins, where if Wilson had put it in the right spot, he would have had a walk-in touchdown. Yeah, he was throwing to Jenkins was looking over his left shoulder, but Zach threw it right side. But the snap was way offline where Zach had to reach out to his left and sort of bring the ball back in, compose himself, and throw the ball. Who knows? Maybe if the snap is on, Zach has that extra second to set himself. He puts the ball in the right place, and maybe that's a Jets touchdown. Now, if an offensive lineman, if a center has something to work on, I'd much rather it be shotgun snaps as opposed to blocking. So, hey, Keith Carter, offensive line coach, this is something they can work on, something they can get better at. But I am very encouraged by Joe Tippmann's progress. Let's see what at what point he actually gets to play in a game. Now, with the wide receiver battle, we talked about that when we were previewing the game. Who would step up? Well, it was Xavier Gipson. He had 10 targets in this game, twice as many as any other Jet. And on the 10 targets, he had 7 catches for 79 yards with a long of 21. Irv Charles had a 31-yard reception as well. Jason Brownlee, only 4 targets, 2 catches for 25 yards. They didn't really go to Jerome Cap at all. In this game, Alex Erickson did have 5 catches for 38 yards, including 2 touchdowns, 5 catches on 5 targets. So a good game for Erickson. But as a 30-year-old return specialist, you can't expect he's going to make this team. It just does not seem likely. But, you know what, with the extra wide receiver spot, I still expect the Jets to bring somebody in from the outside next week after cuts happen. But I think right now, Gipson might have the slight edge. Plus, he can return a kick or a punt for you if you absolutely need him to. So maybe it'll be Brownlee, maybe it'll be Gipson, maybe it'll be both of them. You know, it's going to be one of the more interesting roster decisions the Jets have to make by August 29th. A couple of things on the defense. JermaineJohnson, he is, for his size, he is so explosive. He had a get-off time of 0.68 seconds, which is lightning fast. To put that in perspective, the only defensive ends last year with a faster get-off time at the line of scrimmage were Myles Garrett and New York Jet Brycehuff. And speaking of Brycehuff, there is just something about Brycehuff. As soon as the ball is snapped, you notice when Brycehuff is getting a pass rush. He just jumps out on the screen to you. Watching Brycehuff rush a passer is fun. Seriously, he's like a player. It's not like you notice him when he shows up right at the quarterback about to hit him. No, as soon as he begins moving, you notice number 47. Man, what a treasure he is to have on this team. Just amazing. Solomon Thomas, I thought, played pretty well in this game. Had a couple of big hits. There were guys I'd never heard of who were having big hits that I barely heard of. Marquise Spencer, Pita Tamapinu, who I didn't even know, the 29-year-old from the University of Utah. You know, Bruce Hector, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for 2 quarterback hits. Maybe he could stick around on the practice squad. Who knows? You know, even Deslin Alexander with 5 tackles. Chaz Surratt was back, had 5 tackles. It was good to see him back in the game. Jamian Sherwood with 7 tackles. He's definitely going to have a big role. Good to see Brandon Echols with a pick 6. You know, the Jets last year did not have a single defensive touchdown. They did have one today. That was good to see. But the one player who I got to say upset me a little bit was Brycehall. He just did not do much at all. Like, his tackling I felt was poor. He was getting beat a lot. I think it's a situation where maybe the Jets keep Brycehall for week 1, considering Brandon Echols is going to be suspended for that first game against Buffalo, and then I think he might be gone. I think Brycehall is hanging on by a thread to his roster spot. And 2 other random stats I want to point out with this game. The Jets took only 4 penalties in this game. Wasn't it interesting? It felt like the first 2 drives of this game, the referees were calling a penalty every single play. Didn't you feel that way? The first, I think, 3 plays of this game were penalties, and then they didn't call another one for like 2.5 quarters. Very, very weird how that went down, but the Jets with only 4 penalties, very good. And also, I like this. 4 trips into the red zone the Jets had on offense. 3 times they scored touchdowns. I am very encouraged by that number as well. Well, hey, enough talking about the preseason. I am ready for Monday night. It's about a week and a half away. It's just over a week away now. Man, it can't come soon enough. September 11th, it's going to be a huge, huge night when the Jets host the Bills, 8:15 Eastern, but there'll be plenty of content coming out between now and then. So stay tuned to New York Sports WickerMedia. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.